to FRCMedia News for Thursday, March 26th, 2020. I'm Keith Tebow. We're all still adapting to what's a new normal as we deal with COVID-19. We're going to try to localize all this for you as best we can. What happened over the past week? Let's get right to it. We bring in Phil Devitt, the digital news editor at the Herald News. Phil, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Keith. Thanks for having me.
Let's get right into it. Let's start locally. I had the opportunity this morning to speak with Fall River Mayor Paul Coogan in the lobby of Government Center. The building is locked down. Only essential employees are working, and we'll get to a cut from the mayor in just a few moments. But one of the things we learned is that as of this morning, based on yesterday's numbers of cases of COVID-19, the city of Fall River now has 3 confirmed cases of COVID-19. It had been 1 for about a few days, but 2 more were added yesterday, according to the mayor. Those people have been isolated, and the Department of Public Health and the local health department looking to reach out to individuals that may have come in contact with these 2 new cases. So that's something new. Something that the mayor brought up, and I want to ask you first, Phil, is how local hospitals are dealing with probably seeing more patients than they have in the past few weeks. The mayor said that as of right now, both Charlton and St. Anne's appear to be holding out well, and you had a story in today's online version of the paper that addresses how hospitals are dealing with things.
Yeah, Keith, you know, and the consensus seems to be extraordinarily well so far,
Yeah.
as far as how hospitals are dealing with this. We are checking in with our local hospitals every day because, as we all know, this story changes every day, but really every 5 minutes.
Sure.
You know, and the hospitals have been preparing for this moment. Oh, excuse my camera there, for some time, and now the moment is here. The coronavirus is spreading. I think as of the latest numbers, by the time we're filming this, the numbers will have been updated, but our latest numbers were 67 cases recorded in Bristol County.
Right.
That's now gone up to at least 70 with the news that Coogan reported 3 new cases. But South Coast Health, the last time we checked in with them, told us they had a handful of patients who had tested positive for the coronavirus. Keep in mind, at South Coast is Charlton, but it's also St. Luke's in New Bedford and Toby and Wareham. So we're looking at all of those hospitals together. A mix of young and old patients, nobody with severe symptoms yet, only 1 briefly hospitalized before being sent home, according to the chief clinical officer there. Inpatient care, specifically at Charlton and Fall River and Toby and Wareham, has been isolated to 1 area for COVID patients. So that way they're not intermingling with people who are there with, other problems, which is a good thing. One thing the clinical officer for South Coast did tell us, Keith, is that they're expecting a significant climb in symptomatic patients in the next couple of weeks, which is also, I think, the story in some other parts of the country. And one other thing to note, Keith, is that South Coast has opened a drive-through testing site in Dartmouth for healthcare workers specifically who are on the front lines of this every day, and also people who show symptoms who make appointments to go there. So it's really a collection site manned by a bunch of individuals who then send what they collect elsewhere to be tested. One more thing, as of Tuesday, it was still a new testing site. They'd already tested 56 people. I suspect that number has increased as well, Keith.
Yeah, I know. In speaking with the mayor this morning, I asked him if he had any raw numbers in terms of potentially how many Fall River residents had been tested, and he said he did not, but he had heard a number similar to like 400 of Fall River residents, but he couldn't pinpoint that with any validity. We also had the opportunity in speaking with the mayor this morning. We asked him a number of questions about how government is running, as well as the fiscal health of the city, with resources not coming in, as well as the governor's plan this week to deal with some help for cities and towns. Let's go to that cut right now of the mayor.
There are a lot of departments working on a skeleton crew, A lot of the finance functions are still going on. I saw the woman in elections yesterday. The legal counsel's here. Public Works is going. Trash is getting picked up. Everything's functioning. The phones are humming off the line with people with questions, and we're doing our best to answer as many of them as possible and keep the city rolling. I think we're in the same boat as a number of cities. They closed down the marijuana establishments, which at a minimum is $100,000 a month for the city. I think all these deadlines have been extended. I did have a long conversation with Lieutenant Governor Polito. She said, Paul, we know we'll be coming back to you shortly. I think everything's in a holding pattern right now as we piecemeal our way through this, and they're well aware of the financial issues these cities are going to face, and that they know they're going to have to step in and help us out. You just keep working, you do the best you can, and you want to try to, give as many people as possible a sense of peace. Know that there is people working to help them, and there are people working to help them, and we're going to go forward, and we're going to do the best we can. We don't want to turn any residents aside. We want to make sure they know government is functioning. Take a deep breath. It's a key time for that, and we'll work our way through this. Every other city is, and so is Fall River.
The mayor also wanted to make a note that when we talked about this last week, that parks are open in the city. However, they are asking everyone to stay away from the playgrounds and also the basketball courts. He said that what the city actually needed to do was actually take down the hoops from the basketball courts, because youngsters and teenagers were still playing basketball in small groups and not adhering to social distancing, if you will. He also said that in terms of public safety, everything seems to be all well and good, nothing out of the ordinary in terms of any public safety calls. And he also talked about how the city is going to be doing more to work with One SouthCoast Chamber and small business development operations to try to help our local businesses, as many of them have been shut down by the closures forced by the governor. And the governor announced yesterday, Phil, that there's going to be an extension in homeschooling for our youngsters. Originally, that was to be set, the deadline was, I believe, April 6th. Now the governor is extending that in terms of no in-person school until through May 4th. And you have an article online today that talks about how this could impact the MCAS testing.
Yeah, so I never say never, but it looks like MCAS is probably out the window for this particular school year. As of the time we published that story, nothing was official, no ink on paper just yet. But basically, the state education commissioner, Jeff Riley, has requested a waiver from the federal government to waive the MCAS, the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System testing, which normally happens this time of year in schools throughout the state. And that's, at last check, waiting on approval. In Fall River, decisions are made on a case-by-case and sometimes a city-by-city basis. The grade 10 English Language Arts MCAS exam, which was scheduled to start this week, has been postponed, obviously, with students not back in school. So it remains to be seen if what the blanket ruling will be on that test, but more than likely it will be out the window, because you might have even heard in this news cycle, it's crazy fast, but just a few days ago, the word from the federal government was that states have the go-ahead to forego standardized testing if they choose. Now, you mentioned, Keith, schools opening May 4th now, which is a big leap. They were scheduled to open the first or second week in April, but we talked to Fall River School Superintendent Matt Malone, who remains optimistic that the schools system will be able to see through the end of the year normally. That could change, of course, but he told us he's hopeful for some sports to continue, hopeful for prom, hopeful for graduation. He says the kids in the district deserve it, and that's certainly true. But this is a wait and see time. So this could change entirely in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and finally, one other item I want to bring up. I know you've been covering this at the Herald. Governor Baker this week put together a list of what is non-essential and essential businesses, and some businesses have been forced to close and lay people off. But you have a couple of stories this week, Phil, that some local companies are actually pitching in to help with the healthcare efforts across the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this on a national stage as well. Private enterprise, stepping up to the forefront. What can we do to help? And that's the case here in Fall River. Matuk, the linen manufacturer here in the city, said this week that it's ready and willing to go. And I believe they're doing it now, making reusable masks. These are cotton masks. They're not the N95 masks you probably heard about in the news. The CDC has identified a need for. But the thinking and the hope is that these cotton masks can maybe help extend the use of those other masks so they're not overused when they don't need to be. They're cotton, they're washable, they're made by the stitchers right here in the city. And also Mero Manufacturing has stepped up to the plate, working with state and federal officials to hopefully start producing masks and gowns. They tell us that if asked, they could supply millions, millions of masks and gowns weekly. So we're going to follow that story closely, as well as any other businesses that step up to the plate.
All right, Phil, we continue to do what we're doing to try to keep everyone informed here locally about what's been going on with COVID-19. Thanks for joining us, Phil. We'll talk again next week.
Thank you, Keith.
We'll have more right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Home Health Licensed Practical Nurse. Accent Care Home Health Incorporated, located at 275 Martine Street, is looking for a full-time home health licensed practical nurse to provide follow-up care to patients after they have been discharged from the hospital. Job number 133-90919. Campus Police Officer. The state of Massachusetts is looking for a full-time campus police officer to perform law enforcement duties ensuring the safety and security at the Corrigan Mental Health Center. Job number 133-87130. Customer Service Teller. Citizens Bank, located at 4548 North Main Street, is in need of a part-time customer service teller to efficiently and accurately process customer service transactions at the bank. Job number 133-86873. The Fall River Public School Department, located at 417 Rock Street, is looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. ESL Elementary Teacher, job number 133-86139. Kindergarten Teacher, job number 133-85919. Family Service Association, located at 151 Rock Street, is also looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. Infant Toddler Teacher, job number 133-87090. Research Technician, job number 133-84034. For more information on these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. We've heard how Fall River's government is faring dealing with COVID-19. Our state leaders are also extremely engaged. Fall River State Representative Alan Silvia tells us his office has been inundated with questions about applying for unemployment insurance and how businesses are coping through the outbreak. He also says all legislators remain in constant communication.
We have contact with COVID Command Center out of the governor's office. Every day we're in communication with the delegation, and leadership. So I think that's important for people to understand. It's very difficult because what I'm doing with you now is what we do when we communicate, either through Zoom or by conference call. This Zoom is very helpful when you're speaking to people because what I've learned is that the problems that we're facing here in Fall River are also being experienced throughout the Commonwealth. Some things people haven't heard about, and I think it's important to know because as people are eager to get out of the house, they're not taking the precautions that they need to take. We had conference calls with South Coast Hospital, course, they have Toby, St. Luke's, and Charlton and Fall River. Concerns about ventilators, concerns about PPEs, personal protection equipment, masks, gloves. We know that they have enough for the week. So we're trying to work with the governor's office and COVID command center to ensure that they get what they need and that we link them with the command center to get the items that are needed to better to keep our healthcare workers safe as well, because we've already had doctors and nurses getting ill from this virus. Right now, we're focusing on working with the federal government to ensure that people get their unemployment benefits, 26 weeks worth of employment benefits. They're going to be getting half of their gross pay for up to 26 weeks, as I mentioned, plus $25 per dependent. There's no waiting period. We'll be moving on some emergency items, i.e. the governor's legislation. So there'll be probably one omnibus bill to focus on these emergency issues, related issues, to ensure that communities, municipalities, and towns in the Commonwealth can move around the funding that they have, that restrictions are lifted on many issues. Examples, meetings on city council and selectmen meetings. So a number of changes will be made so that local government will be able to easily or more easily provide services to the community.
Early this week, Governor Baker, in effect, shut down a good portion of the state's workforce, telling people who work in non-essential businesses to stay home. That designation has resulted in quite a few calls to the One SouthCoast Chamber. Co-CEO Michael O'Sullivan says as unemployment claims increase, people are reacting differently. He also frames how the Chamber and other local businesses are helping.
If you don't know someone personally who's affected by that, you tend to think, you live in a bubble and you tend to think it's not quite as bad as people say. But when you look at the unemployment numbers and you look at the number of people who have applied for unemployment online, and the numbers are staggering, and it's frightening, and it's going to be that way for a while. But the businesses are trying to work it, do the best they can. But fortunately, we're in a market that people, everybody's working together, which is good, and everybody's looking out for each other. And hopefully this federal stimulus package that is supposed to be approved and then signed by the president any day, hopefully that will be able to help people as well. We're just talking about, and probably in the next few days, we'll be getting into, setting up webinars, virtual networking sessions where we're talking about, where we try to bring on speakers who can talk about exactly how to apply for the SBA loans, what works, what doesn't, what information people need in order to be able to get those loans, and what other options and alternatives are out there. Merrill Manufacturing, Matuk, Darnett, Joseph Abood, all South Coast companies that in their own ways have gotten into the manufacturing of some of the personal protective equipment. And that's important. And it's great to be able to watch those companies that work so hard every day of the year to be able to really just, to be able to pivot and start to manufacture different products that are what the world needs today. And it's good to see that. And we're really proud that they're South Coast companies, that they're our companies, they're our members, they're our companies, and we're proud of it. And they really are success stories like that.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Today we have Morton. He is a 7-year-old Chihuahua. He's very easygoing. He would do good with cats, dogs, children of any age. He doesn't really care for playing with toys too much. He'd probably prefer to be carried around and sit on your lap and watch TV with you. Morton would do good with kids of any age. He gets along with other dogs. He's not fazed by cats. And Morton is 7 years old. He's very easygoing, very affectionate. Oh, he can be a little shy sometimes. But once he feels comfortable with you, he'll be a little shadow. So if you want to come down to meet Morton at Forever Paws Animal Shelter, we are located at 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Today we have a special little guy. This right here, this is Vinny. He's about 16 weeks old, so 4 months. Vinny is a special little guy because he's a semi-feral kitten. Definitely looking for a home for him. He's definitely going to need some additional socialization, so whoever comes in, ideally they'd have prior experience, or at the very least just some patience to kind of work with him. Like I said, he's not defensive or anything like that. He's all talk. He definitely would not do well with dogs. He'd be way too afraid of other dogs. Quieter homes would probably be ideal, but normal comings and goings kind of home could work okay, as long as he had places where he could retreat to if he felt like he was a little bit too overwhelmed. We were looking for somebody special for him, so if you think you might be that person, come on down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Local school children have been home for quite some time now, and for the most part have spent their time taking care of their academic studies. But according to Fall River Children's Museum Executive Director Joanne Sprague, kids still need to find time to be kids.
Besides the academics, it's very important if we're going to be out as long as, 2-3 weeks or more. It's very important that we keep up with their academics, but also the socialization is very important. So we have to find ways. My grandson the other day was doing FaceTime with some friends. He's 10 years old. He does not have his own phone, but his dad let him use the phone supervised to talk to some friends. And I think we have to find creative ways like that to help the kids, because this is a big void in their lives, not to have their friends, not to understand why they can't have play dates and so forth. We need that balance with our families. Take out the old board games, get a puzzle going, do all the things that they may have heard about that their grandparents did. Facebook's doing a great job. There are many, I was looking at one yesterday, was on STEM and early STEM. PBS is doing a nice job with things, some ideas, particularly the early childhood. But for the older kids, there's some NASA, some readings with astronauts. There's some great things that I've been finding on Facebook that will help families. But, relax and don't think you have to be, the teacher, in terms of, what your background is or whatever. Just basic kinds of things that you have right around your house. Go through, you may have some craft materials left from some project. You never knew what you're going to do with it. Buttons, things like that. Kids can count. Take the Cheerio bag out and, let the kids count up, how many, and then, maybe string them. So you come up with all kinds of creative things just right around your house. You don't have to go out and spend $50, and get this craft kit. Just look around your house and see what there is, and I bet you'll find some creative things that you can do with your kids.
That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can watch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. We'll also be doing some special programming around COVID-19 that will be airing on Channel 95 from time to time, as well as on our Facebook page. And please make a point to get up-to-date information on our website, frmedia.org. We have a special page at frmedia.org/coronavirus. There's some latest statistics in terms of the number of cases locally, statewide, and nationally, as well as links to other news stories that are within our region that localize COVID-19 and its impact here in Fall River. I'm Keith Tebow. Thanks for watching. Please stay safe, and we'll see you next week.